A major southern snowstorm on the way this week, including portions of the mid-Atlantic, and this one has the potential to ride up the coast and become quite the nor'easter, with blizzard conditions not off the table by the time we head into Thursday. Welcome in, everybody. Great to see you on this Sunday evening. A busy week it has been. We had a big storm roll through yesterday. In fact, still rolling through portions of the Northeast as I speak. Luckily, though, by tomorrow, we begin to quiet down a little bit, but that opens up the gates for cold air to rush south and a new storm system to get going by the middle of the week. And trust me, the impacts will be pretty high, I think, for many of us as it rolls on through Wednesday, Thursday, and even really as early as Tuesday for some folks. Now, if you're new to the channel and you haven't already, go ahead, like this video, subscribe, and hit the bell for the latest notifications. It's a great way to stay up to date as we continue to track this storm system and any changes in the models that may be on the way between now and impact. And also, thank you to our members. I appreciate you joining the channel. And if you would like to become a member, hit the join button next to the subscribe button. Alrighty, folks, let's dive on into the data. A lot to discuss in this evening's video. Now, next to me, this is the latest run of our European computer model, and I really think the Euro's got a pretty good handle on this storm. You can see where it's going to impact, starting back into the plains, diving south through the mid-south, including places like Tennessee, then moving into the Carolinas and up the eastern seaboard. The question being, how close to the eastern seaboard, and do we get blizzard conditions out of the storm system? That's what we're going to try to answer in today's video, and really over the next couple of days before the storm arrives. Now, obviously, this is going to be a big talking point in the video, but I do want to talk about what's happening right now as this big major storm system currently working on through is going to have a lot of impacts on how our next storm develops and who gets the worst of it. And you can see it on satellite loop here. Powerful cold front, powerful mid-latitude cyclone, that cold front dipping all the way down into the Gulf, and then all of this energy associated with the center of the storm bringing high impacts to New England, portions of eastern Canada, and then gusty winds really throughout the entire eastern U.S. as cold air rushes in behind this storm system. And trust me, folks, you can see it on radar as well. Just an absolute mess in the Northeast currently. We've got heavy snow in Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire, upstate New York, an icy mess into portions of Massachusetts, the Hudson River Valley, back down into the down east areas of Maine. And look at that powerful cold front now crossing much of the East Coast, draped back down across portions of Florida, in fact, causing impacts on the Daytona 500. For anyone who has been watching that, obviously they're running into some rainfall issues with this cold front. And check out all of this northwest flow snow on the backside. Yeah, we're going to see some pretty good snowfall totals overnight tonight and into tomorrow, including the lake effect machine that will really ramp up for many of us. Now, the current alerts map continues to stay active. Wind advisories really up and down the eastern seaboard. Winter storm warnings remaining into the northeast for ongoing snow and ice, and newly issued winter storm warnings and winter weather advisories for lake effect snow and northwest flow snow on the way. High wind warnings through Philadelphia, Boston, D.C., all the way up to New York City. And then take a look at the Central Plains and the Rockies. New areas of winter storm watches and winter storm warnings now extending all the way into Missouri, Arkansas, Oklahoma, even into portions of Kentucky. That's for our next storm that's going to begin to crank up. Already close enough that those advisories are being issued for millions in anticipation of heavy snow and ice by the time we get into Tuesday into portions of the lower 48. Now, before we kind of break it down for you again, let me briefly walk you through what's on the way here with our upcoming kind of snow on the backside of our storm system overnight tonight. Now, this is right around midnight. You can see still seeing snow, especially on the back end of this storm into the northern portions of New England and the Northeast. But really, the lake effect snow is what I want to bring your attention to. Going to be some pretty good banding here in Michigan, portions of Ohio, Pennsylvania, New York State. Going to see some of that. We could see snowflakes as far south as the Smokies with this northwest flow snow event overnight tonight and into tomorrow. Check it out. And then throughout the day tomorrow, that heavy lake effect continuing into portions of Ontario, the western shores of Michigan, the UP of Michigan, the Tug Hill, back down towards the Finger Lakes getting some lake effect, and then another little piece of energy trying to pop off some snow into Iowa and Missouri by Monday afternoon. And then overnight Monday, that lake effect continuing. Again, very impressive looking storm system. And then by the time we get to Tuesday morning, you can see the start of our next storm getting going back out into the Central Plains, and that'll be kind of the next big topic we discuss. Now, I do briefly want to show you this. Snowfall totals from the lake effect. not a blockbuster event, but definitely some notable places. The Upper Peninsula of Michigan, specifically kind of east of Marquette, and then back down into the Northern Thumb. Going to pick up some good snow. Portions of Ontario seeing a nice little highlight of snow, and then back into the Tug Hill, kind of between Syracuse and Watertown. Going to see some pretty good snowfall totals towards Camden, New York, in this area. Definitely going to hit the jackpot on this one. Now, let's go ahead and start talking about what I think many of you are here for. That's the storm system on the way. Obviously, the storm system that just happened brought plenty of impacts. Definitely let me know what you saw out of it in the comments. We had big snow this morning from a deformation band. I saw all the comments about that. We had power outages in New England. That was in the forecast, still ongoing by the time you're watching this probably. But the ongoing storm is very important for our next storm. Here's the setup basically right now. We've got low pressure over the northeast, and what's happening is that's pulling down this pocket of cold air over Canada, kind of wrapping it around into the storm, and that's going to flood the eastern U.S. with cold Arctic air by tomorrow and Tuesday, and that's going to set the stage for what you see over here into the Pacific Northwest. That's our next piece of energy that's going to dive down and kind of ride that Arctic boundary and produce a major winter storm for many people. Now, let's go ahead and start breaking down some model guidance on it. Luckily, close enough now and kind of quiet enough elsewhere that we can start talking region by region on this one. So let's go ahead and do that. Here we go, the latest NAM model. This just came out basically hot off the press, so you'll be the first to see it. This is what it shows. Here we go. This is overnight Monday into Tuesday. Look at that snow breaking out through Nebraska, Missouri, getting down into northern Oklahoma. This by 7 a.m. Tuesday. We've got an icy kind of rainy mix over OKC. We've got snow to the north through really all of Kansas and much of Missouri. We'll get into Tuesday afternoon, that heavy band of snow continuing into southern Kansas, southern Missouri, back into St. Louis, moving towards the Ozarks, where we have a bit of an icy concern into northern Arkansas. Ice, I would imagine, even getting as far south as Little Rock. I'll tell you, I think this model underdoing some of the cold air, so I would expect ice as far south as southern Arkansas, maybe even into portions of northwestern Mississippi, and can't even roll out a little bit of ice into extreme northern Louisiana. Would not surprise me, but I think the model has a good handle definitely on this band of heavy snow through Kansas, Missouri throughout the day on Tuesday. Here we go, overnight Tuesday continues to work east, getting into portions of western Kentucky and the Memphis area. Probably going to be dealing with a little bit of ice, maybe some snow, maybe rain, kind of right on that fine line, but probably ice the most likely solution right now. Heavy snow through St. Louis, back down into Farmington, getting into southern Illinois, Indiana, and then clearing out through this region by Wednesday morning. Now, that's kind of the timing. What about totals? Obviously, that's going to be a big question I think many of you have on your mind. Well, let's take a look at the latest blend of models showing that potential for heavy snow, and I think it's got the bullseye right on here. This is going to be an area of heavy snow from Springfield, Missouri, back towards Poplar Bluff, Cape Girardeau, south of St. Louis, towards Farmington, Rolla, Clinton, and then into the Paducah area of Kentucky. Mayfield could get some good snow out of this one. Madisonville, Kentucky, areas that were just dealing with a tornado threat and flooding yesterday, now getting a big winter storm only a couple of days after. That's classic kind of Midwest weather, if you will, and you're definitely going to see that here with a snowfall mean of 1/2 foot to a foot. Right now is what it looks like. Now, getting to a foot might be a little tough for some folks, but I think 1/2 foot is going to be pretty easy to come by. Right now, I would say 6 to 8 inches is going to be pretty common in this area. That could trend up, could also trend down a little bit, but that kind of, again, 1/2 foot, 1/2 foot and a half, if you will, up towards 8 to 10 inches, going to be pretty easy to come by. Further south towards Oklahoma City and Little Rock, going to be dealing with mixing and ice. Same story for Memphis. In this region, though, I would expect a corridor of, around an inch or two of maybe a sleet, snow, kind of freezing rain, messy mix. And then to the south, that's where ice becomes a concern. Check out the same model here for ice. This is into Oklahoma, McAllister, back towards Texarkana, Pine Bluff, Little Rock. Model pointing out about 1/10 of an inch upwards to 1/4 of an inch of ice. Could be something that we need to watch out for. Same thing for Oklahoma City, back towards Lawton, into the Red River Valley near Texas. Could even see a little bit of icing. And notice some of that ice trying to get as far south as the I-20 corridor of Louisiana, towards Monroe, Shreveport, up towards Omer, and then into the Greenville area of Mississippi, up towards Clarksdale. Could also see a little bit of icing out of this event. Now that brings us eastbound, and I'll tell you, impact's going to be high in the southeast as well. Specifically, my folks in the Carolinas, Virginia, Tennessee, Kentucky. You're probably wondering, well, what's it going to be like? Let's take a look at the data. Here's the latest European model. Again, I told you I think the Europeans got a pretty good handle on this storm. We'll time it out. This is into overnight Tuesday into the early time frame of Wednesday. And I mean, basically when we're flipping the calendar from Tuesday to Wednesday right after the midnight hour, pretty strong low pressure down near the Gulf Coast. Heavy rain from New Orleans back into the I-10 corridor of the southeast. No snow for you this time. But to be fair, you got enough to last a century basically down that way. But further north, again, Little Rock, Memphis, eventually working into Nashville, potentially as far south as northern Mississippi, Alabama. Could be breaking out some of the snow gear here by Wednesday morning. And then shifting east towards Knoxville, Chattanooga, North Georgia, the western mountains of North Carolina, at least on this model, those areas. Kind of beginning to see the action. This is 7 a.m. Wednesday, moving it to 10 a.m. Wednesday. Classic I-85 North snowstorm / wintry mix kind of mess here on the European. We've got snow in Greenville, Spartanburg counties, back towards Pickens, Oconee County, Charlotte, and a bit of a snow icy mix. Pretty good snow up towards the Triad into western North Carolina, southwest Virginia, Blacksburg, back towards Danville, and then even the Raleigh area getting in on some wintry action. Check it out by Wednesday afternoon on the model. The storm beginning to strengthen at this point, and a heavy deformation band of snow trying to set up shop right along the I-85. Now, I'll tell you right now, this is going to shift north and south on the model runs in the coming days, but I do think someone in the Carolinas and Virginia is going to hit the jackpot on a heavy band of snow that could produce more than half a foot of snow. Now, who is it going to be that gets that? That's the million-dollar question, but the setup is conducive for a band of heavy snow that could produce, again, half a foot, maybe up towards a foot, or at least close to double digits somewhere. The favorite area right now going to be southeast Virginia up into northeast North Carolina, but this model run trying to sneak that as far south as the Charlotte area, at least here, and then seeing that freezing rain threat a little bit closer towards the Sandhills and the PD on the latest run of the European. Then the storm pulls up the coast. Talk about a deformation band. You can see it there. Heavy snow in that region I highlighted. Raleigh going to get probably some heavy icy mix right now would be the forecast. Again, could shift colder towards snow, could shift warmer towards rain. We'll have to watch it, but you definitely see the idea of the storm strengthening down towards 1,000 millibars by the time we get to Wednesday afternoon, and then begins that bombing out process up the coast, a heavy band of winter weather in eastern North Carolina, and moving up towards the northeast by Thursday morning. That's the European model. Now, what about the GFS? Also going to be something that we need to look at and kind of get the difference between the two. Well, here it is. Pretty similar for Kentucky, Tennessee, Arkansas. Not quite as far south on the snow line. So Alabama, Mississippi, Georgia, a little bit warmer on this model. And also the Carolinas a little bit warmer. Couple key differences on the GFS. One, a warmer solution, like I mentioned. Two, a weaker solution. We're at about 1,013 millibar low here. That's kind of keeping the storm weaker compared to the European, which was down near 1,005. And because of that, we've got less precipitation and less of kind of a dynamic environment over the Carolinas for big snow. More of a light to moderate winter weather event on the GFS. Still a winter storm, and you can see the snow here with it into the Triad, up towards Danville, through Virginia, Southeast Virginia, the DMV, the Delmarva, Raleigh trying to get in on some ice, even Charlotte trying to get on some ice, but much warmer down into South Carolina on this run, and then pulls up the coast and finally begins to strengthen as it kind of gets a little too far away to really help us snow lovers out very much. Now, again, that's just one model run. Let's switch it up to the northeast. We'll start with the European. Here it comes Thursday morning. We've got a bomb cyclone off the coast of the northeast. The problem is it's just a little too far offshore for big snow for a lot of folks. Now, people in the Northeast, I don't want you to freak out. I don't want you to say it's over, the storm's a bust, it's not going to happen. Today is Sunday. This is Thursday morning. That is 4 days. We've seen crazy trends in 4 days, and it really wouldn't be that crazy of a trend to get this far enough back north and west for this to be a big storm for the I-95. Heck, right now, it's still a pretty big storm for coastal New Jersey, the Delmarva, potentially Long Island, Nantucket, into kind of the southeastern Mass in general in that region. You can see that on the GF, or the European rather, pulling that snow up the coast and giving a nice little winter storm. Now the GFS even further out to shore than the European here, and you'll notice still good snow in Virginia, the Delmarva, southern Jersey, but then doesn't do much for us in Long Island or coastal New England. Although you do notice right here at the end a little bit of northern stream energy trying to combine with that coastal energy and gets a little bit of snow, but just not that classic big nor'easter that is skirting the coast that you would maybe typically see for a big winter storm. Now, those are some of the models. We'll do the same thing here that we did back out west. What about snowfall totals? Well, this is the latest blend of models, and I think, again, doing an all right job here. You can still see the potential. In fact, it looks like we have the latest run now, so let's get the latest run here. Let's go back one run. That's one run ago. This is the latest run. Still looks about the same. You can see that swath of big snow potential, especially in eastern and southeastern Virginia. The ensemble means already showing near 8 inches. That's why I told you someone in here could get half a foot. And again, looking at it, this still clips the coastline of the Northeast enough that Long Island, Philly, especially the Jersey Shore back out towards Nantucket and even Montauk, seeing the potential for pretty good snow. Then you look back down towards South Carolina, North Carolina, about a 1 to 2 inch mean in Charlotte, about a 3 inch mean in Raleigh, Durham, Greensboro, seeing about a 4 inch mean. So you can definitely see a bit of a snowy solution. Now, for my folks in the Carolinas, you see this band of kind of crazy snow. There's a very real possibility if the low kind of strengthens soon enough, that could shift south a little bit, and maybe areas near Greensboro, Danville, Durham, Charlotte, Raleigh still in play to get that. Now, right now, Virginia is more favored, but watching this region to potentially get in on the action. The Western Carolinas towards Asheville, Spartanburg, Greenville, Pickens, Oconee County. I think going to get winter weather out of this, but I think the higher QPF values, meaning the more precip we have to wring out of the atmosphere, whether that be as ice or snow, probably going to be more into North Carolina. We'll say I-77 points east, but still expecting some form of winter weather in the upstate north of I-85, potentially even south of I-85, depending on trends. But then the bigger snowfall totals, again, potentially looking up the coast here towards the Delmarva, I think is really a hot spot with this storm, and then maybe southern New Jersey, and then we'll see what happens up into coastal Mass. Now, ice, a bigger concern for portions of the Carolinas. Check this out. Fayetteville, Lumberton, back down towards Florence, up towards Goldsboro, Rocky Mount, into the southern suburbs of Raleigh, into the Charlotte area. This is a big signal for ice, folks. We're talking 1/4 of an inch to 1/2 an inch. Not out of the question with this storm system that tries to creep even into the Columbia area, portions of the eastern upstate, Union County, back over towards Lawrence, Newberry, into the Rock Hill area. There's going to be an area of ice. And if we look back at the snow, you can kind of see the snow and the ice are going to touch each other. So it's going to be snow to the north, ice in the middle, and then rain to the south. Classic Carolina winter storm. Just kind of figuring out where exactly those lines set up. That'll be the real challenge over the next couple of days. Now, let's talk a little bit about why the models are seeing some differences and what could be leading to that. Well, it all really comes down to how the energy phases. Both the models have the cold air. This is the European. Here's that cold energy, the northern stream energy. That's bringing cold air through really much of the eastern half of the country. But the energy associated with the storm back out here, this is Monday overnight. And what happens on the European is the energy dives far enough south, the cold air can get all the way down into the Carolinas. Classic cold air damming example. And then it begins to link with the northern stream, and that strengthens the storm along the Gulf Coast, the southeast coastline. That actually enhances the cold air. Imagine the low pressure right here. This is the flow around it. So that kind of really enhances that CAD wedge, and we get snow and ice further south and east, or further south and west rather, towards the upstate, maybe even northeast Georgia, maybe as far south as the Midlands. Again, that'll be a question exactly how strong it is, but with a quicker phasing of energy, you get a stronger storm, you get more cold air, and you get more precipitation out of it, whether that be snow, ice, or rain, again, depending on where you're at. But that's why the European has a big storm and then pulls it up the coast. And for my folks in the Northeast, if you shift this holding energy just a little bit back north and west, then this could be a big coastal storm, kind of like some of those ensembles showed that I showed you earlier. And we're not far from that being the case. Like I said, we're 4 days away from the Northeast getting this one. It would not take a big shift further inland for this to become a pretty big nor'easter. The GFS, why is this one not quite as exciting? Well, here's why. The phasing of energy just happens a lot later. It happens right around here over the mid-Atlantic. So at this point, the storm's already past the Carolinas, so you get less precip there. It's near the Northeast, but still a little too far offshore, and really just more of a winter storm for Oklahoma, Arkansas, Kansas, Missouri, and then even through portions of the Ohio Valley, getting some winter weather. And then not a dud, but just not as exciting as the European during into the eastern seaboard. Now, right now, if I had to guess which one is right, I'm leaning towards the European. I think it's a little bit closer to reality. We've seen this plenty of times where these storms kind of get a little bit weaker in the medium range, then buff back up a day or two ahead of time. I think the European is probably a little bit closer to reality at this point, but we still have to watch it. Watch the trends, see which way it goes. Could still sway either direction. All right, another thing I want to mention here, cold air is going to be a concern. Here we go. Tomorrow morning, we're talking temperatures 20, 15, 25 degrees below normal through portions of the Midwest. We're talking 40 degrees to 50 degrees below normal back up into Montana, the Dakotas. This is the Arctic air I was telling you about. This is what's going to kind of give us that snow potential, and it's going to really lock in right ahead of the storm. This is Tuesday afternoon. This is Wednesday afternoon. So this is going to be a cold winter storm, especially folks in the Central Plains. We're talking snow in the single digits for some of us. And then that cold air continues to lock in through this week. This is all the way into Friday and Saturday. Arctic air mass over the east. So whatever snow falls, it's not going to be gone in the next day. It's going to take a little bit of time for this to melt, but I do think by next week, potential signs of another warm up on the horizon. Alrighty, folks, that's all I've got for you this Sunday evening. Again, if you haven't already, go ahead, like the video, subscribe, and hit the bell for the latest notifications. And if you'd like to become a member, definitely consider doing so. You can gain access to cool perks like emojis. You can have your name featured in the video like I did at the beginning, and I will answer your very detailed forecast questions. So if you want to know exactly about your backyard, I'll kind of tell you my thoughts on that in the comments. Unfortunately, the growth on the channel has just been so crazy, and still in school, and also I've got a pretty busy schedule, so it's a lot harder for me to get around to answering those normally. So I kind of put a little incentive here for that. Alrighty, folks, y'all have a great one. Stay warm, stay safe. I'll see you all next time.